Yeah. ATP, what it do with your boy Claymore Rain? Back at you guys with another one. Shout out to all my subscribers. If this is your first time tapping into the content, I'm gonna invite you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit your bell icons as well, so you are getting alerts when all this content is dropping. So Jaron Ennis versus Karin Kukoc is in the books. Yes. It is in the books. Said and done. And going into this fight, first of all, congratulations to Jaron Ennis for his victory this evening. Congratulations to Karin Kukoc, who came in with a whole different energy tonight. You know, stepped it up, showed that he could play the game, fight the mid-range game, and as I've said many a times already, these Eastern Europeans are just, listen, the Eastern Europeans have raised the bar when it comes to this boxing game. And I don't remember the last time I've seen an Eastern European in a boxing match at this point as to where it wasn't competitive. If not, they didn't just all out win, right? I mean, I'm not going to go down the list. We already know. And what's understood doesn't need to be said, right? So going into this fight, Jaron Ennis was to correct or to right a wrong, right? To correct the visuals on what it looked like it was, to show people what it really is. That's what was supposed to be happening in this fight, right? Let me get a little deeper into it. Keep in mind, Jaron Ennis and Eddie Hearn didn't even want to get into this fight, right? This was not an ideal situation to be in. These guys have been trying to unify and become undisputed at 147 pounds and hitting all kind of roadblocks, right? Jaron Ennis has been the most dangerous guy at 147 pounds right now for a minute now. I mean, and I'm even talking about while Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence was there, this guy was like the most ducked guy, supposedly, right? Nobody wanted to fight Jaron Ennis. Well, Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence have moved on to greener pastures at 154 pounds to go and make their name there, sow their royal oats up there. And Jaron Ennis left at 147 pounds, supposedly the best 147 pounder in the division, just trying to unify and chase legacy, just like the greats before him have done. Well, the IBF made Karin Kukoc a mandatory, right? A fight that he had maybe 2-3 fights back that was considered to be an exposing fight for him. It showed, when I mean by exposing, I mean in a negative way, right? It exposed him to the space, saying that he couldn't cut off the ring, that he wasn't able to stop Karin, was a blow to his reputation as far as the level of boxing that he brought to the game, the pedigree and the knockout power and his knockout ratio that shows that he knocks out 8 to 9 out of 10 people he fights against. But this one Eastern European Ukrainian boxer named Karin Kukoc seemed to have evaded that fate, and he was going to correct it and get this opportunity to go ahead and fight Karin Kukoc again, as the IBF had made him his mandatory because of the 3 fights that he has won on the streak that he's won. And he moved up the rankings in the IBF and became the mandatory for that belt. What were we expecting from Jaron Ennis going into this fight? We expected him to be poised. We expected him to cut the ring off. We expected him to stop Karin Kukoc if possible. Most people, I think, felt like it was possible. And what we were expecting from Karin Kukoc, we were expecting him to come. Some people expected him, excuse me, pause. We were expecting him to come to fight, right? Some people expected him to do the same thing he did in the last fight, running around the ring, not engaging. And other people, as myself, said, well, listen, this is an Eastern European boxer who has a lot of pride on the line at this point. This right here for an IBF title, this is a big deal. I think this guy's going to put it all on the line and fight Jaron Ennis, which I thought would end up in Jaron Ennis ultimately knocking him out, because if you sit there and step to Jaron Boots Ennis, well, your fate is already sealed. At some point, you're going to get clipped and put out, right? Or so we thought. So what's the reality of actually what happened? Well, the reality is Karen Kukudajin came to fight. Jaron Boots Ennis seemed a little caught off guard with the fact that Karen came to fight, actually stepping to Jaron Boots Ennis and moving around at times resembling his peers like Vasily Lomachenko, who's a mastery of moving around, right? They literally called us dude like the Matrix, right? Literally matching this energy, moving around, keeping his head off the line, attacking Boots, counter-punching Boots. Boots was getting hit so many times in this fight, like a complete lack of defense from Jaron Boots Ennis. And the whole time you're watching this happen, you're thinking to yourself, well, man, dude, if Karen Kukudajin could just hit a little harder, he probably could hurt Boots, right? Because he's hitting him so much. I'm not going to say at will, but I'm going to say plenty of times. Combinations, level changes, hitting Boots on angles. He was doing it all. He was bringing it all. And Boots, of course, was doing his thing as well. That's why he ended up winning the fight. The scorecards, I believe, were a little off, but did represent at least the winner, which was Jaron Boots Ennis. But now, getting through this fight, 12 rounds, 12 grueling rounds, although Karen got put down one time and another time got penalized for holding too much, actually lost a point. Outside of that, it was a very competitive fight. The scorecards wouldn't lead you to believe that because they were very one-sided, lopped one-sided for Jaron Boots Ennis, which, like I said, I hold no words back. I do believe he won the fight, but were those scorecards accurate? No, they weren't. But so now we're towards the end of this situation to where we've seen Boots Ennis pretty much once again with the same fighter run into the same issues, having a hard time stopping him, cutting the ring off. But at the same time, didn't have to cut the ring off because Karen was engaging, right? He was actually engaging and pressing and stepping to Jaron Boots Ennis. Ultimately ended up in Jaron Boots Ennis winning the fight. But what's next for Jaron Boots Ennis? Well, Jaron Boots said, listen, man, he had to own it for himself and say, listen, I was a little sluggish. I was a little unfocused. I wasn't really following instructions like I was supposed to. And to be honest with you, the weight cut was probably about my last weight cut to try to make it in 47, starting to wear and tear on him and possibly even slowing him down to a degree. So he's decided that he's probably going to move up to 154. What's waiting for him at 154? Well, obviously there's the Virgil Ortiz opportunity, which is there, where they're trying to spark a 5v5 between Matchroom and Golden Boy. One of those fights on that card was going to be Boots Ennis versus Virgil Ortiz. That's definitely an option for him. But you have to think to yourself, does the power translate? Does his defense get better when he goes up there? Because according to Jaron Boots Ennis, depending on the competition, if he's leveling up his competition, then he'll level up his skill set as well. He'll fight at a higher level because he understands the difficulty that's in front of him, right? I guess that's convenient, and we can all look forward to seeing him do that. But until he actually does do that, we have to assume that, listen, the last two fights, Jaron Boots Ennis has been getting hit excessively, really just being hit way too much for somebody of his caliber, and it makes you question how much success should we expect from him at 154 pounds, where the fighters are more dangerous, are punching harder, or actually a better pedigree of fighter than the fighters at 147. It's something that won't be answered until it actually gets answered, right? Well, Jaron Boots Ennis can make this move, but is he ready to make this move? Can he go to 154 and be as dominant as he was at 147? I'll be honest with you to say that I'm not too sure, but I'm not leaning towards that side. I believe he becomes very regular. I believe there's a good chance that he becomes very regular at 154 pounds. And if that's the case, then what's so special about Jaron Boots Ennis at that point if he becomes regular at the next division? Some people might say, with hindsight, maybe he should have worked at a better deal with Brian Norman to become a unified champion at 147, at least have some more belts to leverage as far as influence at 147, excuse me, at 154. But at the end of the day, look, what does it matter? He's at a place right now to where the weight cuts are starting to become strenuous on him, on his body, on his mentality. He wants to move on. And 154 is naturally where he should be. A lot of people feel like he can fight up as high as 160, 168 right now. So 154 is not a big deal. It shouldn't be a big deal. But at the end of the day, Jaron Boots Ennis feeling like he may have lost a little bit value in his market value, lost a little value in his stock value and in what he brings to the table. He was made to look very regular tonight. Very, very regular. Which is not what the mission was. The mission was to show superiority, that you were pound for pound one of the best fighters in the world. And now it doesn't necessarily look like that. So it's going to be interesting watching this unfold and come together to see exactly what Jaron Ennis is going to look like at 154. What will he look like against Virgil Ortiz? What does he look like in front of a Jermell Charlo, an Erickson Lubin, a Charles Conwell, a Terrence Crawford, an Errol Spence, a Sebastian Fundora, a Tim Tszyu, a Bakram Murtalaziev. Hope I said that correctly. It does leave you wondering what all of those looks are going to be when those actual matchups come up. Well, time will tell that, right? You guys let me know what you think in the comments. Jaron Boots Ennis wins tonight, but at the same time, it seems like he's lost a little bit of his buzz. Talking about going up to 154, is this a good move? Do you guys think this will help him? Will he come out of his shell? Will he all of a sudden step his game up because of the competition that's in front of him? Or the reality is that he's just not ready one way or the other, and he's probably going to get exposed. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. It's your boy Clay Moraine. This is the ATP Combat Media Show. Once again, shout out to all my subscribers. This is your first time tapping in. I'm going to invite you to go ahead and hit that bell icon so you are getting alerts when all this content is dropping. But at this point, you know how we carry it. We out.